Despite being bedeviled by turmoil in the financial markets, the government yesterday proved that it is going ahead with its reform agenda. It announced an unexpected and quite dramatic amalgamation of three listed banks, Bank of Baroda, Vijaya and Dena Bank. What was the algorithm behind the choice of these banks? And is the government confident that the turmoil which, the markets are continuing to persist, is this turmoil going to be a passing one? For these and other questions, we have with us the Economic Advisor to the Finance Ministry, Sanjeev Sanyal. Thank you very much, Sanjeev, for joining us. Well, first, exactly that is the question. On what basis were these three banks chosen for amalgamation?
I think the issue of consolidation has been discussed for quite some time. And, we have wanted to do this for a while, given that, most people agree that there are perhaps way too many scattered public sector banks, and that in the long run, consolidating them would be probably make them more commercially viable. So on that basis, we have decided to merge a group of them to make them create a somewhat bigger entity, which will be hopefully more successful commercially. So the most important thing to understand out of this is that it is being done on a commercial judgment. This is not an attempt, by the way, to suddenly wish away the NPA problem, which many people think. This is a commercial judgment which in the medium term will hopefully lead to more viable banks. So this is something we have been trying to do for quite some time. And, I'm sure DFS Secretary Rajiv Kumar will be able to give you the exact details of what is how the numbers stack up, but this is basically why it's being done.
No, he gave us in his press conference some numbers of the three banks, but what I'm trying to get at is the factors that y'all considered. Was it regional presence or duplication? Was it technology platform? I mean, if we know the algo for this consolidation, we can figure out the next merger candidates. That's my point.
Well, I'm not going to begin to tell you about what the next consolidation is going to be. We will go about this quite carefully. This is not sort of we are not doing a binge merging exercise. This will be done carefully, one at a time. You've already seen, we did the SBI and its subsidiaries merge. Now this has happened. At every time it's done carefully and slowly. So, we will take our time, stabilize this one, and then we will move on to the next one.
But can we expect at least one more merger, consolidation, amalgamation this fiscal?
I'm not in a position to comment on that.
No, I mean, my point is there are 10 banks in the prompt and corrective action list, PCA list of the RBI, even after you exclude Dena Bank. That's why this question.
No, the key thing that I'm trying to make to you is that we are not trying to resolve the NPA issue or the PCA problem or etc. by doing this. This is a medium to long-term view of consolidation, which has been, by the way, discussed for a long time. This is not like we came out of nowhere and did it. So it's not the case that we will suddenly go around trying to use this to resolve those issues. So this is not the case at all. And therefore, we will go about this deliberately and slowly.
Okay, I take that point. But why amalgamation? Doesn't this route sacrifice minority shareholder interest? Why not, for instance, the open offer route?
The various options are there. A judgment was taken that this would be the most convenient way of doing it. There are, I'm sure, other ways of doing it as well.
I'm asking because I want to know whether the rights of minority shareholders will be a consideration at all in the next set of mergers.
As I said, I mean, every way of doing it has pros and cons. So obviously, judgment was taken that this was the most convenient way of doing it. I'm not saying that some other way will not be used in another case in the future. That's always open.
Okay. Well, you kept saying that the banks were chosen carefully. Were chosen. I mean, it was a government diktat. That's how it looks from your answer. In the early references to consolidation by the government, we were told the boards of the banks will chat and consult. That was the impression we got in the Gyan Sangam. Now it looks like a diktat.
No, that is your interpretation. I can assure you a lot of discussions happened on all sides before such a major decision was taken.
Well, actually, one of the top officials of one of the banks told us he learnt about the consolidation of his bank from the press conference.
Well, top managers were consulted, so this is not quite the case that, maybe there are some individuals who may not have been aware, but adequate number of officials on all parties were consulted, yes.
Okay, you say what you will, national interest here has prevailed over minority shareholder interest. Don't you worry that this attitude will scare away minority shareholders from PSUs in general?
I don't believe so. I mean, I don't think minority shareholders are going to get somehow being done over by this. A fair amount of thought was put into doing this. It's not like we did it all of a sudden. A lot of thought has gone into doing this consolidation. By the way, consolidation has been discussed for a long time. So this has been almost maybe a year since the last set we did with SBI. So a lot of time and energy has gone into doing it before being attempted. And that is why I keep making the point to you is that we will do it. We will see what happens out of it. And then if and when something like this is done, the lessons will be then implemented. Even in this process, the process has just begun. It's just been announced. So along the way, many things will be also done.
Okay, that's
of course,
good.
We want our minority shareholders to benefit from this. So various trade-offs have to be made at every stage. Every other way of doing it would have had some other downside. So it is not that trade-offs are made, and of course we are very we do want all shareholders, minority and majority, to benefit from this.
Okay, glad to know, Sanjeev Sanyal, that minority shareholder interest will be kept in mind. And even now, this is an evolving process, the method of amalgamation. We need to take a break, but Sanjeev Sanyal, do stay on. I have lots more questions to you on the other big worry, the current account deficit. But before we take that break, just staying with consolidation for a minute, we spoke with the Bank of Baroda Managing Director on the merger, its pluses and minuses. Here's what he had to say. Just remember, the stock was punished with a double-digit cut in stock price after the announcement of this merger.
So that's about us. I mean, the merged entity will be decided. It's reasonable to assume that the person who would lead Bank of Baroda would be in charge of the merged entity. But all of these things are open for discussion.
Okay. And you haven't been told. I mean, October is upon us. October is upon us.
Put it this way: I have communicated to the government that insofar as I'm required to continue, that is available.
Okay, there are a bunch of brokerage reports in front of me, and people like Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank have worried about the merger and downgraded the stock or kept it on hold, downgraded the target price, simply out of the fear that the management's bandwidth, the managing director's bandwidth, will be devoted to merger issues, and therefore the good growth that BOB has shown may not be kept in the coming quarters. Is that a legitimate fear?
So I think the way you usually do these exercises is that you have dedicated team that works with respect to the merger process. You normally set up a steering committee with appropriate staffing and an equitable representation that can then focus with respect to the merger, and that's precisely what we will do. Mm-hmm. As far as my own time is concerned, surely this is a new item that would require some time, but it's also equally true that Bank of Baroda on a standalone basis is pretty much moving fast on its own trajectory, and therefore the fact that we have built the bench strength and we've built the processes and we've built the momentum, I expect them to continue.